Today I'm going to talk about how William Yeats' Irish identity shaped his poetry. When thinking of poetry, the word pottery may not come to mind. However, pottery can be compared with poetry in the way that a potter may have a vision of what the vessel is going to be, but as time goes on, this picture may change because the clay forms different paths as the potter shapes the clay. Similarly, a poet may have an idea of what poem he wants to write, but the poem may alter based on the author's identity and concerns. One such poet, William Butler Yeats, can well attest to this. William Butler Yeats' Irish identity shapes his poetry by focusing on subjects that pertain to Ireland and its people. William Yeats was born in Ireland, but his family moved to London soon after he was born. He did not return to Ireland until he was about 15 years old, but he met some very important people along the way. People such as John O'Leary and Maud Gonne encouraged Yeats to write and express his feelings regarding his Irish heritage. Three poems that demonstrate how Yeats' Irish heritage shaped his poetry are The Fisherman, Easter 1916, and An Irish Airman Foresees His Death. The Fisherman, first published in 1916, takes place in Connemara, Ireland, a place dear to Yeats' heart. The poem states, "Although I can see him still, the freckled man who goes to a grey place on a hill in grey Connemara clothes." So right from the start of the poem we get a sense of disappointment. It continues, "All day I'd looked in the face what I had hoped would be to write for my own race and the reality." Yeats was clearly let down by his fellow Irishmen. He wanted to speak proudly of his race, but he could not convince himself that they were actually worth the praise he wanted to give them. As a thick cloud of fog prevents the beauty of the landscape to shine through, Yeats believed that these men clouded the Irish identity, and that they were not living true to their identity and had actually shamed it. So William Yeats' own Irish identity moved him to write this poem about the identity of his people to remind them of their native heritage. Easter 1916 is a poem about a six-day resistance of British rule. The rebellion was not successful, but it showed Yeats that the men of Ireland could join together and defeat threats to their Irish identity. In the poem, Yeats suggests that the Irishmen must abandon the conformity of the stone and become more like a shadow of cloud on the stream that changes minute by minute, implying that the people of Ireland need to focus on change and pursue goals of their own. So through this poem, William Yeats teaches people to stay strong to their national heritage and identity by standing firm to their own beliefs and by fighting for their independence. Like the Easter 1916 rebellion, World War I much influenced Yeats' poetry. Robert Gregory was the only son of Lady Gregory, a close associate of William Yeats. Gregory was an airman in World War I, and he gave his life for his country. His death moved Yeats to write the poem An Irish Airman Foresees His Death. Why did he join this war in the first place? Well, he didn't join because of any law or duty. He wasn't persuaded by public men or cheering crowds. So why did he feel the need to sign up for a war he knew he couldn't survive? Well, he explains in the poem, "A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. The airman shows a desire to fly, almost insinuating that he cares more about those few minutes, maybe even hours, than about his own life." But the poem ends with a sense of balance. It says, "In balance with this life, this death." It is likely that Yeats ended the poem in this calm manner in order to reminisce over a fearless man who had chosen his fate. Yeats discusses his own sense of national identity in this poem by writing about the man, even men, that died for their country. William Yeats' Irish identity constantly shaped his role as a writer in society. He wrote about subjects pertaining to Irish heritage, set many of his poems and plays in Ireland, and wrote and remembered the men that helped and served that country. Through the poems we have considered today, we gain a sense of what Yeats' Irish identity meant to him. He wrote about subjects that deeply affected the Irish people, motivating them to take action and to make changes. There was a time when he felt disappointed in Irishmen, but all doubt was cast off after the 1916 rebellion. He now saw a light at the end of the tunnel, one that kept getting brighter and brighter until he witnessed Ireland's freedom from Britain in 1922. His Irish identity shaped his whole life, and he surrounded himself with people who also shared the same sense of identity. It is this identity, his Irish identity, which shaped many of his poems. These are the references that inspired this presentation. I will give the full list and websites in the comment section. Thanks for watching!